Welcome back to a new episode of Ashes to Apex. Today I have a very special guest, Josh Lowrey. Josh, I've known for quite some time. Actually, he is my old boss. And one thing I can tell you about him is this guy is a stud. He is an entrepreneur, and on top of that, he's a self-proclaimed professional athlete.
That's right. That's right. Man, there's a lot to start with on that. Now, before we get into the introductions, Shipley's Donuts was doing a national rollout, and I emailed them and I said, hey, I'd like to take off 6 months. I will take off 6 months of my job to go do your national rollout with you and do the whole one bite, everybody knows the rules.
Yeah.
I was going to do one bite, everybody knows the donut type of deal. And they thought I was joking. And they sent me here's a t-shirt. I'm like, I don't want a t-shirt. I want to take off 6 months of my life and go eat donuts. So true story. So I am an athlete, obviously elliptical, no big deal.
Yeah.
But you said, you did your introduction and you said this is the Apex to Ashes or Ashes to Apex podcast, but you didn't say Joshua Bellin.
No.
And Joshua Bellin is your name. I'm Joshua Lowrey. So when we worked together, there were too many Joshes.
That's right.
So the world that we know you as is JB.
Yep.
Josh Bellin is JB.
I'm slowly transforming into that to everybody as well. I think you started that trend.
The JB.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
been calling
JB
me
was just easy to call. And everybody in our world, if I were to say I went with Josh today, they'd be like, who? And
That's right.
And I have to say, no, JB, like, oh yeah, JB, how's he doing? So
Yeah.
that was a good time. You were with us in a cool time. I'm trying to think of the years. It was
2019.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was really just, I mean, it was an exciting time at your company.
There was a lot
really
of
was.
stuff going on. Mm-hmm. But you're huge in SEO. You're huge in just all things digital. And we're not really at the time. And so getting you on our team was a big deal. And I remember you not really wanting to go work for a company because you are an entrepreneur yourself. Right. And I was like, just come on over. It'll be great. And we did. We had a great time together. Yeah. You and Kevin, I think, are still buddies. And
oh, yeah.
Kevin loves you.
Yep.
So, no, everybody in my world is a big fan of JB. Yep. So when you asked me to do this was an easy yes.
I really appreciate that. It's an honor to have you on here.
Thank you.
And by the way, Kevin Corser, hey, man, how you doing?
Kevin will love that. Kevin's, a genius. We love Kevin.
I love Kevin.
Yeah. He's Kevin was he's a partner in one of the companies called Upright Digital. And he's, I could not love Kevin more than I do.
Right.
He's just such a great human being on all levels.
Yeah.
So
strong strategic thinker.
There is no Upright without Kevin.
That's right.
Period. That's always been the line, and it's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
But yeah, you, again, just kind of following up with what you said, and I am an entrepreneur. I've always really struggled with even saying that word. When I was a kid, they just called it a small business owner. So I'm just a business owner that never really set out to become a business owner. It was if I'm being honest, it was really spite that turned me into a business owner back in 2012.
Right.
Because I really wanted to go run my parents' business. They had a 60-year-old business that I thought I was ready to become the president of. And it turned out that my dad, who I love very much, wanted my older brother to do it and to be the kind of the next guy. And I said, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm better than he is. I love him, my brother, very much, but I just felt better and more equipped. And my dad and my grandfather and really my entire family is very much of a hierarchy style management. Mm-hmm. If you're older, that means you're wiser. And to me, that made no sense. And so I left the business. And we had a pretty big exit in another company in 2012. And right after that, I had a bunch of offers for jobs, great jobs. But I decided, let me go beat my dad, basically, is what my goal was. So I set out to do that in 2012. And by 2014, we were bigger than they were. We had more influence. We had, we'd won, if you will. And saying that in 2015, 16, 17 brought me a lot of pride. Saying that in 2025 makes me realize I spent a lot of time, my why wasn't the right direction. It was, I'm going to beat people because they said I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I did that. And then you realize you've spent a decade beating the crap out of people you love.
You know, I firmly believe, though, that we have different seasons in life, and our motivation and our intention in those moments in our mindset, it could be for a specific reason. You know, obviously that chip on your shoulder got you to where you were, but as you got wiser.
Well, again, you know, once you win,
Yeah.
quote unquote,
Yeah.
it's like spiking the ball,
Right.
you know, or taking candy I hate to even say it like that, but I'd already won. And I'd set a goal, I won, and then I looked around and I was like, what did I win? I beat my dad, who I love, and caused animosity in my family.
Right.
And just to prove him embarrass my brother, just to prove that I could. And, you know, so I felt, like I said, I felt really like, look at what I did.
Yeah.
And then you realize maybe, I don't know if there was a better way to do it or not.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't live in a revisionist history world. I mean, what it is, I'm proud of what we've done. I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
But I realized also that leading with vengeance, honestly, maybe even hate, really, but hate was nothing more than embarrassment, because I was pissed he chose somebody else over me. And, you know, once you kind of get past that, you're like, dude, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to waste that much energy. That's really I'm not going to waste that much energy going forward on things. I'll use my energy in a different direction. So that's really where I got to eventually.
So now, how many companies do you have?
So I either own or am invested in basically 10 companies. And I say basically 10 because the 10th is brand new. But the 10th is going to be where I spend the next 10 years of my life. So 10 companies. We started out with 3 employees in 2013. We've been as big as 1,800 employees in 2021. We're probably now, between the whole group, and that actually it's probably larger than this. I've really never added it up. It's over 500 if you add up all the different companies that I either own or am invested in. I've never done the sales numbers, but it's in the hundreds of millions for sure. And it's funny, I don't even add it up because I don't really care. I don't do any of it for the numbers anymore. If I hate to even say this question, but I had my CPA called me, years ago, and she says, "Congratulations." And I said, "For what?" This is a very braggadocious comment. I understand this. I'm sorry, people, but it's more of a mindset than it is a brag. It's not even a humble brag because she says, "Congratulations." And I said, "For what?" And she said, "Well, you made $1 million this year." And I said, "Did I really?" And she says, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." I hung up the phone. I thought, wow. I mean, I knew I was doing well. Things were better, but I didn't realize that I'd made $1 million. And flash forward the next year, she says, "I'm really sorry." And I said, "For what?" And she said, "Well, you only made $73,000 this year." And I said, "Did I really?" And she goes, "Yeah, you'll get them." I said, "Okay." And I hung up the phone and I thought, I don't feel any different. I didn't work any less hard for the 73 that I did for the million. I worked exactly the same level. My focus was the same. Wasn't counting dollars. And I also went into debt too when I made that 73. It wasn't just the collapse was real. The business was struggling. I had to put money into it. So it wasn't just that I made 73. It's that I put 73 in whatever, but then I lost 300 in debt. So it was actually bigger than the 73. And I realized I didn't work any harder for this 73 than I did for the million. So I said, well, I'm not going to do that again. I said, if I know I can make $1 million a year, then I'm just going to put that as my goal. Because I'd rather work for $1 million than 73.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question because you said mindset, right? So what cultivated that mindset? So actually, let me reframe that. All right, while we all love making money, I mean, at the end of the day,
I love spending money.
Right, but the why, right, isn't necessarily, it's not the money. I mean, what gets you out of bed and what drives you every single day? You said, you made a comment earlier that, at first it was this chip on your shoulder, right? And then after you won, like what happened? What did that turn into?
Well, you've asked a lot of questions there.
I'm sorry,
No,
but it's really what's your why? That's really the question.
Well, I'd like to actually, if we can, talk about the mindset.
Sure.
Because the mindset to me is the most valuable thing that I have. The why is a different story. It's changing, it's evolving because I'm maturing. I care about different things.
Gotcha.
So we can talk about why as well, but the mindset to me is really, I think, what separates me from other people.
Go for it.
Okay, so there was an investment in 2013 that our group was involved in. And if you really know me, I'm actually very conservative. I come across like but it's also kind of my shtick, but I'm a very conservative person. And I love law and order. I love rules. I love guidelines. I love this. So and when they're not followed, it bothers me. So 2013, my partners were trying to go into a thing with LNG. We were busy building the steel business. And I kind of kept looking at this LNG thinking, why are we even talking about this? This is distracting us from our core business. But there was a little bit of money being made on the other side of it, but not enough to really care. But we were making money. And I thought, Josh, you don't understand this. They do. They clearly see something you don't. If you don't open your mind to what they're trying to see, you will miss out on an opportunity, even though you do think it's a distraction and you don't understand it. So I basically flipped my mind from not supporting it to supporting it, even though I had no idea what the hell it was. And it ended up doing exactly what I thought it would do. It lost money, it was a distraction, and it was a time waste overall, right? Mm-hmm. But what it did for me, though, was when I said, you've got to start looking at these things differently. It shifted my mind from being, everything's going to be this way, there's only one way you can make money, this is how you have to do it, to maybe give yourself some risk tolerance or allow some risk tolerance in your thinking. So over that, now it's been 12 years since that time frame. In the 12 years from that moment of you need to think differently to now, I look at risk completely different. I look at mindset as you can change your mindset, you can grow your thoughts, you can really, whatever you put in comes out, manifests itself differently. And I focus almost exclusively now on not allowing myself to be around negativity on any level at all. So the moment I feel, and you'll kind of see me do this around people, like the moment I feel negativity touching me, my boundaries go up quickly. And I'm like, this person, this idea, this whatever, it needs to get away from me immediately. Mm-hmm. And I will separate myself from the person, the idea, the company, the business, the whatever it is, instantly. And I do that because I don't want to be around negative thoughts and negative people, because it really will impact my ability to be positive for myself and the others around me. So that being said the success I've had on these businesses is as much positive willpower as it is anything. Like, we're going to do this. Watch. Like, we're going to figure this out. Watch. And if I listened to the people telling me no, these things wouldn't get done. But now, we've built, many, many multi-million-dollar companies on just sheer willpower and positive mentality. And I could go as far deep down that as you want me to, because it really is I don't think anybody, I rarely meet people with the same kind of mindset. And when I do, I just grasp onto them quickly. I like the accountability that comes with it. I like if someone's going to call me out, it needs to be somebody who's maximizing their life. If I hear somebody tell me what I'm doing wrong and I get a quick glimpse of this person's life, I don't really care to even put myself in their situation. Like, I can immediately identify, this is not a person that's going to take me up. This is a person who's going to take me down. So the focus on you're the average of the 5 people you're around the most matters a lot to me. So I really try to continually put positive people, even if it's not truths that I want to hear or have to deal with, I put them in front of me at all times and eliminate the bottom 2. Mm-hmm. That's not great for friendships, etc. I have good friends, but I just kind of compartmentalize like who I'm looking for and what I'm trying to do, because I have a mission. and I'm going to go accomplish my mission.
Man. Yeah, I've always wondered what's going on in that head.
Well, what's going on is I had a friend of mine. There's this company that wants to start business coaching me, and I met with them, and they were great. And they're asking me questions about why do you do this? I'm like, well, because I have the ability to do it. I'm talented enough to be able to do it. So if I don't, I feel like I'm selling myself short. Like if I have a skill set and I don't use it, then I'm just wasting the skill set. And that internally eats me up sometimes. Like you just don't, like I'm sure there's a deeper thing I haven't researched about myself with regard to.
Well, maybe that's part of the magic is that I don't know.
I don't want to find it.
You don't want to necessarily find it. You already have something going on. You don't want to mess with that, right?
Well, so they asked me, they said, it was a woman asked me a question. She says, what is the cost of feeling like you always have to win?
Yeah.
And she asked that. And I said, that's a good question. And I said, I understand that. And there is a cost to it, whether it's physical or emotional, whatever bucket you're draining, there's a cost.
Yeah.
But then I said to her, I asked her some questions. We went back and forth. And her questions were fine and her responses were good to me. But I could tell even in the questions I was getting back, or the answers I was getting back, that their group of professional counselors is the wrong word, business coaches, they weren't even thinking far enough ahead, in my opinion. And I said to them, the people that I run with can identify those that can help them and those that can't quickly. And it kind of took them all back, and they said, what do you mean? I said, well, basically, do you know how they teach bank tellers to identify counterfeit dollars? Okay, they give them real dollars, and they make them count real money, lots and lots of real money. And then they'll slip some fake dollars in there to where the moment you touch a fake dollar, it feels different than the real dollar. And I've seen enough real people and I'm not calling these people fake by any means, but if you've touched enough real talent and enough real go get them, if you will, the moment you feel like someone's not doing that, it's very obvious.
Well, there's a real thing about energy. I mean, when I'm around someone or I walk into a room, I don't have to know them, but I can tell just by their countenance, their demeanor, just their body language. Immediately, correct, I can feel how this is going to go.
Correct. There is a energy begets energy. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, JB, it's a real, as I mentioned a second ago, there's a cost to all of this stuff. And there's a sacrifice. Like I get up at 4:30 every day. I got up this morning at 4:30. I got up yesterday at 4:30. I'm up 4:30 every day. I am up, I read the news, I do my business, I get an espresso, and I then go to the gym. And I don't go to the gym because I want to be buff. I go to the gym because I need to prepare myself for the day. And I need to also be back in time to see my kids off to school. But because the mornings are the only time I get to myself. My days are so busy that by the end of the day, I'm either exhausted or I have 5 things I've got to go do. So the cost of what you're talking about is sacrifice, whatever the word you want to say. Actually, those are two separate. Sacrifice and then the cost. You do run yourself down. Like when I give a lot of away, I feel it. Like I feel my energy giving away. That's why I try to keep my energy and my focus as high as I can, because I know that I'm going to be pouring out throughout the day. And it goes back to that touching, not letting negativity touch you. If you're giving so much, people will take whatever you give them.
Right.
And some people just are going to take, and it's not really their fault that they can't give back to you the same level that you're giving, but they will take everything you give them. And I mean, they will drain you. That's a bad relationship, a bad boss, a bad this, a bad that. So you've got to be very careful where you are going to give that energy away to. And I feel very blessed in the businesses that we've have that, I am aware of the role that I have in those companies. And I want to be, like you remember Caitlin, and you remember all these great people we had working for us.
Yeah.
Caitlin's amazing. I'm using her as an example, but this could be, Stephanie Smith, right? I mean, it's a person X. If you have the ability to help somebody and mentor them and because I had great mentors. I still have great mentors. So paying it forward is part of the responsibility that I've always felt. And when you have somebody that's taking, I love Caitlin, so I'm not saying her, but if you have somebody that just wants to take and not give back, that person has to go.
Right.
Like, I'm not interested in talking to that person. If that person's progressing, I will draw energy from that. Like, this is a great moment. They've advanced, they're growing, they're this, they're that. But if they're not doing that, then I am out completely. And I make them start now reporting to their higher up.
Sure.
And it's because it has everything to do with, are you helping me be better?
Right.
So.
No, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So when you were going through this journey, like, you went through some pretty tough times.
Sure.
I mean, you started this steel company, right?
Yep.
And then
against all odds,
there were some really difficult
market
economic
pressures,
challenges there, and then there was another, and I don't want to put any words in your mouth, because there was another big event that happened while I was working with you, and I know that was challenging as well.
So one is a macroeconomic situation.
Right.
We had built a business, we were crushing it, and then Saudi Arabia decided to flood the market with oil, and sent the entire industry that I was zoned in on. I only had one company at the time, on a 30-month downturn. And we were very new in the business. I had just enough money to literally barely survive 30 months. If it was 32 months, I may have been out of money, seriously.
Yeah.
So macroeconomics played a big part in the pain and suffering of the first 4 years of the company. Then there's interpersonal things that happen that are very difficult, because, I do love people very much, and things happen, and I'm leaving the names out to protect the innocent, because it's very difficult to be mad at someone that you love. And in the moment you can be pissed. Scared is probably the better way to say it. But once you kind of evaluate what's going on and you keep working, the anger went away for the people fairly quickly, because I told you I wasn't going to dedicate negative energy to anything, but that wasn't going to move us positive forward. And then the reality of, like, I've got to save this company. I've got 7 years left on a lease. I just put $100,000 into a podcast studio. I've got, I had literally offices in Mexico, Canada, US. We had just started this massive growth. We had just started our growth plan. And I remember telling somebody, the comment was, we should shrink down. And I go, what are you talking about? I go, it's too late for that. We have to feed this animal now. There is no more not feeding this animal. We should have slowed down a year ago or 6 months ago, but now, too late. We have commitments, requirements, there's cash needed. And all of a sudden I went home and I thought, oh my God, like, that's the first time I'd ever said it to myself. Like, we have to feed the animal. And the only way you feed the animal is with orders and money and, properly running a business. So doing that post the collapse in oil, the interpersonal thing was very difficult to deal with, because that's the first time I ever realized that no one was going to come help me. I remember saying to myself, no one is coming to save you. I said that to myself. I've done another podcast where I go a little bit more in depth, but I literally said out loud to myself, after going through every line of thought that I could on how to save the business, who could I call, what could I do, how does this work? And I got to the end and I thought, holy shit, no one's going to come save you. There's no one I could call. There wasn't a dollar from my parents. There wasn't a person I could hire. There was nothing that was going to be done to save me. And that moment was very impactful, because you felt very alone. You felt very scared. You were like, oh God, am I prepared? I'm not sure I was prepared for that realization. So when I realized no one was coming to save me, I thought, well, what are you going to do? And I said, Josh, this one might kill you, meaning kill the businesses. And I said, this might kill you. And I said, but if you're going to die, you're going to go out fighting. And I said, so tomorrow you're going to get out of bed and you're going to put one foot in front. I said all of this out loud, put one foot in front of the other. And this was at the office. This was during COVID, right? So when COVID actually happened, once I got past that moment, that specific moment, COVID didn't really scare me. I'd already been through so much that I didn't really care to be nervous about it again. and be nervous about. I just realized like I'm going to survive. So when I said that to myself, I will never forget the next morning getting up, and I get up early, and I remember putting my feet on the ground, and I was like, oh God, like I have to go to work today. And it just this terror of like the moment I put my feet on the ground here, today's going to suck.
Yeah.
and I said, Josh, get out of bed and put one foot in front of the other. And I literally made myself walk to the bathroom, and then I put water in my face. And I made myself go to the kitchen and make an espresso. And everything I wanted to do was crawl back into bed and cry and give up. And I just kept saying one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And I did that for months, that exact phrase, one foot in front of the other. So surviving COVID I thrived through COVID actually. We can get into that in a minute, but the initial gut check of COVID, post the interpersonal things that happened through the business, post the oil and gas downturn, that was a 6-year period where it felt like I could never get momentum. I had pneumonia in the middle of that. I mean, there was 100 things, double pneumonia. I was very, very sick. It was the sickest I've ever been in my entire life because I'd worked so hard. I'd worked myself to the bone, hence the cost. And I was 40 years old at that time when I woke up with double pneumonia. My eyes were sealed shut. My wife had to take me to the doctor, and the doctor was like, where have you been? Why didn't you come in a week or 2 or a month ago? And I was like, I had stuff to do. Like I couldn't quit. And she's like, you're very sick. And she says, you need to go home. And I remember telling her, like, so I need a couple days. She's like, you need a month of rest. I was like, I don't have a month. And I went home, she gave me medicine. I think I slept for I just remember sweating and sleeping for a week. And I woke up and I was like, I'm too old, even though 40's young, I'm too old to physically do that again. 20-hour days, 21-hour days for 3 straight years. And not an exaggeration. Like that's not where people are like, I work in my day, both sides were uphill. I mean, it was legitimately 20-hour days. And the cost was double pneumonia and 30 extra pounds of fat. So I said, I need to work myself back into shape. I need to figure out how to do this differently. And then I need another business. So that's what I did. I kind of developed another business to offset the ups and downs of our businesses and made it through it. COVID happened. I was kind of in a great financial spot for the first time in 6 years. And we started 5 companies in COVID.
Yeah.
And all of them have succeeded, which is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
One of them is Daniel Energy Partners. I started that with John, and we started that April 1st, 2020, which is now the largest research and events firm in the industry. We rebranded Galtway Marketing to Upright Digital, which is powered by everything, which is huge. We started Central Safety, which is the largest manufacturer of medical gowns in the country. Southern Stem bought that. We flipped that to another company. So the moment of impact of all those 6 years of lessons and whatever kind of culminated in 2020 to the other year I worked the most because I was doing a lot of manual labor trying to get these companies off, switching from one mindset to the next daily was difficult. But at the end of 2020, we had 5 companies up and running, and now they're all 5 years old.
So something that you used to tell me all the time, actually something, I can't remember exactly what you said, but you used to instill in me all the time that you're not building employees, you're building leaders.
Correct.
And so there's no way you could possibly run and lead all 5 of these companies.
I did
or
for a
10
long time,
companies.
but I was going crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you had to cultivate, you have your own mindset, and now you're cultivating this mindset into new leaders that are running these companies.
Right.
I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I have a phrase that I'll say that I like money, but I'm not greedy. And I mean that. Like I do like money, but I'm not greedy. And when you're not greedy, everybody can win. And when everybody can win, they are motivated differently. And I've never, it's no fun to be the richest person because then you pay for everything. It's always fun when your friends get rich too, right? Mm-hmm. So, my goal is, my brother and I have I won't say the whole goal because it's somewhat offensive, but we would like to, I'm sure there's a classier way to say it, but be rich for the purpose of doing good with the money, right? And bringing others up. I know that I have a skill set of idea, startup, launch, build, but once it's to a certain point, I'm a terrible manager. Terrible. I like, because I am people's friends, and every sob story, I'm like, well, gosh, if you need 10 months off, that sounds great. You know what I mean? And you can't run a company that, but like that's what I would do. So I realized like I needed to professionalize some of these things. So we brought in HR to all the companies. We brought in structure. I started reading different books about how to do this. There's a particular book called Rocket Fuel, which I highly recommend to any entrepreneur to figure out, are you the visionary or the implementer or integrator, excuse me. And so we did that. So I started looking for different types of people versus the ones I was hiring, and recognizing that the companies, all of them, were not at startup stage anymore. And I was still used to hiring the startup sales guy or the startup this. And I'm like, no, I need a professional to manage these companies. So that's really what I did, is I set out to find professional style, not just a manager, because I'm not, by the way, an integrator is useless without a visionary. A visionary is useless without an integrator. So everybody needs each other. So I really focused hard on finding the right person for the role and putting the right person in the right seat going forward. And once you kind of do that, you just multiply it, right? It's like Goonies. You just put some water on it and it'll multiply. And now I'm in a different position. I've got an investment group. That's kind of what I was telling you were my next 10 years. My brother and I have a family office now. And our goal is to invest in companies that A, do we like the founder? B, do we understand the product? And C, can we help it grow? And from those three, there's a whole set of questions that go below that. But those are the real quick 3 identifiers. And if all 3 of those match, then great, let's go to the next level. But I had a group the other day, they wanted to meet with me about a product. I love the guys. I understand the product. I can't help it grow. So I stepped away immediately. And those other guys are still going down the thread to maybe invest. And I was like, and I was out after the first meeting. And they want me involved in it. And I'm like, I can't help you. I can't help you the way I need to help you. And I'm not just going to give dollars away anymore to people that I like. Not that I ever did, but I'm not going to give investment dollars unless all 3 of those things match. So that's really where I am, is like, how can I make sure that people, or excuse me, myself, my companies are positioned to help these other things grow effectively.
Do you feel like that's the key to making good investment decisions is how honest you are with yourself and what you can do with that company? Or
well, I don't think any person of high character isn't honest with themselves.
It's true.
You have to know, are you a piece of shit or not? Are you lazy or not? Are you this or not? And I don't think the people that I want to surround myself with are not asking themselves.
I guess what I'm leading to is high accountability for yourself. Like what I'm saying is, I mean, we're talking about leadership here. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is like, what's your favorite leadership book? For me, it's Extreme Ownership, and I feel like that is key. And it changed. I read this after you and I, worked together, but to me, that completely changed the direction of my life.
Really?
When I read it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it just shaped my mindset. I was like, okay, no, everything is my fault.
I do 100% about that.
Yeah.
So I know what book you're talking about. I've never read that book. I don't really have a favorite, what'd you call it, a management book or what?
No, a leadership.
Leadership
Yeah,
book?
not management. I'm talking about just pure leadership.
I can't really put my finger on a favorite book. I've got great books that I've read, like the 10X Rule by Cardone. That's not really a leadership. A lot of the stories and lessons that I have are hard knock stories, right?
Right. Yeah.
And my mom was always big about to thy own self be true. Make sure that you don't lie to yourself, because you can lie to other people, but you cannot lie to yourself. And if you do lie to yourself, you're screwed. Yeah. And so, but that's always been a pillar of my life is don't lie to yourself. Don't tell yourself something that's not true because you might believe it.
Right. Just because it makes you feel better doesn't mean it's good for you.
And because you might go down the road and get yourself in trouble.
Right.
With something you look back, like dating the wrong girl, dating the wrong guy.
Right.
Just, I always tell any of my young girlfriends or guy friends, like, are you really in love with this girl? Is this where you want to go? And if they're not, then get out. Save her the time and you the time. Yeah. And that's a small example, right? Yeah. It's not a small example. Like I would love to talk about my wife in a minute, but just because the person you marry, which I know you know this, matters a lot.
It does.
If not,
they're just as a part of your success in what you do in life as you are.
I would not have the success I have without Christy Lowrey.
Right.
For sure. Period. Hard stop. For a multitude of reasons. Number one is I'm a just by nature the fish is this big kind of guy, and Christy's like, no, it's not. The fish is this big. And yeah, it is actually that big. And I used to get pissed at her when we were dating. I was like, the fish is this big. No, it's not. And I was like, why do you call me out on these stories? And she's like, well, Josh, the fish isn't that big. The fish was this big. And I realized she wasn't trying to call me out. She just does not. Christy's a very black and white person.
Yeah. And
I'm gray, if that's the way to say it. And I realized
colorful.
Colorful, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I realized there's a lot of value and character in being black and white. Yeah. There is truth. Truth is real. Yeah. And so we've been together 18 years now. So that's a long time for, I'm not going to say to get beat down by your wife, but because she doesn't. She's very much just a soft leader. Right. But she doesn't vary. She is all the time. So for me, if I wasn't going to be down the middle at home, that was going to cause problems at home. And then all of a sudden that just carries out into the workplace, and the workplace carries out into the other things you do. So the leadership book, you talk about all things are my fault. If Christy and I were to get divorced today, even if Christy cheated on me, that's my fault, because that means I've done something to lead her astray, right? Yeah. So there is very much a sense of all things are faults. They're just my responsibility. Like I don't mind the pressure that comes with being a husband and a father and a leader. I don't mind it. There's nights where you pretend to sleep because the pressure is so enormous. Your chest is literally on fire. And you have to wake up the next morning and still say, well, how did you sleep? And you're like, I slept great. When you didn't sleep at all. And I mean, not a wink of sleep. You just lay there for 7 hours. Yep, been there. I'm sure you have. Quite a bit. Every man has. Yep. Every father has. Every business owner certainly has. But that pressure, the pressure to keep your mouth shut, to me, is the real responsibility of being a leader. Yeah. Eat it. Yeah. Now I've got to ask you this. Yeah. So on another level, and I know not a lot of people like to go into this. It's fine. Like, as a leader running all of these companies, the pressure's tremendous. Sorry, you just creatine. You just talked about it. That's great. It's good for your brain. But from a spiritual level, you just finished telling me that you spent how many days? 80, 90 days? 80 days off. How do you recharge your spirit? So I'm a Christian. I grew up going to Catholic school from 1st through 8th grade. I was an altar boy till I was 16. Kind of through college, my buddy and I tried to go to Catholic church pretty often, but I just wasn't into it. And it wasn't really until people came to our house who I thought were Jehovah's Witness and explained what a relationship with Christ was. Wow. That's the first time I'd ever remember hearing that. I was 22 years old. And I was like, what is this? And and I'm sure they taught me about relationship at Catholic school. I don't remember it at all. Right. And it's not their fault. Maybe it's more about rules and all about rules as far as I remember. Yeah. And that's the problem is I only associate it with rules and guidelines. Again, but I do like rules. But you're a rules and guidelines guy. Yeah. I am. Maybe that's why. It's definitely why. The Catholic school upbringing, hardcore. And it was. Okay. I'm an '80s baby.
Yeah.
So I was the last generation where nuns could spank you and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Not these candy canes today. Get away with it all.
Yeah.
So going in through my 20s, I really dove into, somebody asked me, were you, I can't remember the question, but basically I was very intentional in my 20s with what I did with my time. I started doing marathons and triathlons. I was a young life leader. I was very careful how I dated. I didn't want to be a gigolo, right? I mean, there was lots of things I did that I didn't do before. So I always tell people, like, if you've ever listened to our other podcasts, I come across, and if you meet me in real life, there's maybe a character of arrogance that kind of comes through that's not fake, but I always tell people, if you've ever been humbled, then it's very easy to be cocky because you know where real strength comes from. And I know where real strength comes from. I've been to the bottom. I've been to the pit. And I've been there.
Yeah.
Which is why I can talk to people who are either on their way there, are there now, or what they're like. You know, I always tell people, you don't get credit for being the most sad. You don't get credit for being the most broken. Broken is broken. Like, how long you stay there is up to you. And it is a matter of, like, and I can relate to that person because I've been that deep. I've looked at ways to, I wonder if I drove into this tree, would it look like it was an accidental death versus suicide? And you know, you go through those things. I almost cried just saying those out loud today, but like, I've been there. Yeah. And because you don't want to be a chicken shit and kill yourself, right? In front of your families. So, but like depression, that's what depression does, is it makes you think that there's no way out. The pit is spiraling and it never is going to stop spiraling. Yeah. So once you kind of realize that God and Jesus is your foundation and your base, then it's very easy to understand that nothing really matters. Yeah. Except how do you what is your relationship with Christ? Is he there? To answer your question after that long, side story there, when I was mid-20s, our pastor at the church, he's like, yeah, I'm going to take a sabbatical. I was like, what's a sabbatical? And, as far as I understand, it's a structured break for pastors or people. I know there's a definition, but pastors, preachers take it to where, because their entire life is to be giving out, researching, studying. So they go back there and they take it, however long that is, and fill up their cup.
It's time for input.
They need to refill their cup to where they can go back. So I heard that in my 20s. I thought, what a great concept. I would love a sabbatical.
I'd like to be on sabbatical 100% of the time.
Well, I have a story to that. So then you start a business, a family, a this, or that. Next thing you know, it's 15 years later, right? 18 years later. Yeah. And you're exhausted. And you're like, I want a sabbatical. And I thought, well, I'm going to do one next summer. So last summer, I started planning this summer. And I planned out how I was going to do it, what I was going to do, how I was going to tell my employees or not tell my employees. And I hired people in the right place, didn't tell anybody until the day before I left. And I went and I said, hey, I'm going to be gone. Oh, yeah, it's on your calendar. You're going to be gone a week. I was like, no. I'm going to be gone a while. And I said, it's up to you guys to run these things. Good luck. And I know you'll do great. And I basically turned off my phone. I didn't have internet for 6 weeks, so I really was no phone, no email. I didn't really give a shit if I came back and it was on fire. I didn't care. Like if I hadn't built structure in the 10-year period, and some are 10 years old, some are 5 years old, some are 3 years old. But I'm implementing structure faster now and procedures, if you will. So I was just going to see what I came back to. All of the companies, all of them, through a summer, had done better without me than they did with me. One of them needs a little Josh sprinkle in there to kind of turn back, but it's also the newest one, which would make perfect sense. But it did fine. It had a great summer. And so all of them moved the ball forward. All of them progressed. All of the company leaders, basically, when I came back mid to late August, I went to the first kind of meeting and I realized, like, I shouldn't say a word. These guys have their structure running. If I get into their way, now I'm in their way. So that's what I did. But I was very conscious about relaxing, breathing, reading, hanging out with my friends, hanging out with my family. My son and I had an awesome summer together. He's 14, so he needs dad time.
Yeah.
So to answer one of the second thing you said, I want to be on sabbatical at all times. I learned this lesson when I was doing Young Life 20 years ago. We would take these kids on a week-long hike in the mountains, and you pick up you leave no trace camping, right? So you are on the road for 7 days with a bunch of high school kids, and you and 2 other leaders, basically. Cold, rainy, doesn't matter. You're not going home. I don't care what happens. And even if someone's injured, you find a satellite phone and have them come picked up and taken out of there. So you're not leaving for the whole week. So when you get to the final 2 days or whatever it is, there's a climb of a 14,000-foot mountain, which is, there's only 1% of the population's ever done that. So at the time you do this, and I had my first trip up there, we climbed to the top. You have to leave at 5 a.m. It's ice cold when you get there. It's beautiful when you're at the top. You're walking around this summit and you're just staring at everything, and it is beautiful, but you're freezing, and there's no oxygen, and there's no flowers, and there's no plants, and there's no food, and there's no vegetation. You know what I mean? There's nothing. There's rock, howling winds, and beautiful views. And everyone's like, this is incredible. And the lesson that one of my co-leaders said, who he'd done multiple of these, he said, take a look at this. And he described what I just described. He goes, look down there. Down there it's green. Down there there's water. Down there the temperatures are sustainable. Down there is where we live. He said, we don't live here. We don't live at the mountaintop. He goes, you can't live at the mountaintop. You have to live in the valley. And
this is good. I keep going, dude.
And he says, your job is to come enjoy God's beauty and recognize that above all this, he loves you more than anybody. But you've got to go back down and recharge yourself. I know it brings it to your tears, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It almost to me too.
Yeah.
You go down there and you help.
Yeah. And
you live. And here, enjoy the beauty, but go down there and live. And I've never forgotten that. And I took my son, we climbed a 14er this year, Uncompahgre. It's 14,317 feet. And we get up there, and I said, Holcomb, take a look around. And I told him that story. And he's like, he's freezing. And I'm like, it's incredible. But I was like, make sure you understand that as beautiful as this is not where you live. You live down there.
Yeah.
So I've never forgotten that lesson about, when you are on top of everything, you can't live there.
Yeah.
Metaphorically or physically, right? You've got to go back down to the valley and live where it's hot, humid, traffic. That's where you're called to live.
Yeah.
And I feel like at all times now, those lessons were so impactful for me that I don't mind the valley. I hate humidity.
Yeah.
But I don't mind the valley because I know that it's hard. That's why money doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you make, you will die at the top of the pile of money.
Yeah.
Because that's not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Man. That was great, man.
It's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. No, so
I don't take credit for that. I learned that lesson in Young Life. And
that's
just
great.
Before we move on, last night, we're doing this on a Tuesday. Yeah. Last night, my 14-year-old son went to his first Young Life meeting ever in high school. He's a freshman in high school. So he went to his first Young Life meeting, which is something I told my wife, I said, I may be a terrible everything. I said, but I feel like I just accomplished something. My son going to Young Life at 14 years old, 17, 18 years after I was a Young Life leader, which I know is impactful for high school kids because, they stop listening to mom and dad. And there's some 24-year-old leader in there that's going to grab, well, there's other kids, but there's also young mentors that he's going to pick up on that I was for the kids that I talked to. So I actually sent a picture of my son walking in to my old Young Life kids that I still talk to this day. And I sent it to my old Young Life leaders who are now 60. You know what I mean? And I said, look at this. So just a cool moment last night for my family. For me, with my son. I love my son and I love Young Life. And it's a special ministry for kids.
That's awesome. Yeah. I took my son up a mountain as well. This last summer. It wasn't 14,000 feet. In fact, 1 hour into it, it got kind of steep, and he was like, "Dad, my legs hurt." And I was like, dude, this is what it's about. I said, let's keep going because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're going to run into a lot of mountains in life.
Did you see my post I did this summer about?
Yep.
Okay.
That was so. So you talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that. That was interesting.
So, you know, the pro and the con of my mindset is that I've told people I will die before I quit. Great.
You're gonna die anyway at some point.
Well, wait.
So.
You know what I mean? Like there's that. Some people would completely argue against that. And,
Okay.
And I'd have a hard time defending it because I understand the argument against it. But for me, I will die before I quit. Wherever that trauma came from, I don't know, but I've got it. And I don't care. And so when we go climb this mountain, we were actually going to go climb a 12,000 foot mountain. So, you know, I've got my Yeti backpack full of a bunch of water, some bread. So we had lunch prepared and, you know, whatever. So I was prepared. I was over prepared for a 2-hour day hike. And that was really, I had over prepared for a 2-hour hike. So we go to do the 2-hour hike and the road is blocked. I can't get through where I'm trying to get to. So I was like, you know what? I know another mountain. We'll go over that. So I drove over to do the other one. So by the time I get to the other one, it's now noon. And you do not want to do a 14,000 foot climb starting at noon. You want to start at 6 a.m. Yeah. So we go in to do this. I'm with my son and 2 other buddies. So there's 4 of us total. And none of us are prepared with clothing. None of us are prepared mentally. No one's prepared, but we're all doers and we're all high performers. So I was like, we'll be fine. And I literally thought we were going to be fine. We start doing this thing and it takes us every bit of 4 hours to get to the top of this mountain. And in that 4 hours, my buddy gets altitude sickness because he's not prepared. He throws up 5 times, but he keeps pushing himself forward. We think he's literally going to pass out and he's a big dude. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to carry this guy down. We get caught at 13.7 in a full-blown hailstorm with no protection whatsoever. No trees, there's no rocks, there's nothing. So you are walking with your head down. Nobody was dressed properly, so our ears are just getting pelted with hail. You had to put your head, everybody luckily had a hat, so they had their hat down, so their face was somewhat protected, but their ears were getting pelted. So we keep going, and finally my son finds this rock. He's freezing, he's soaking wet. I've got a 14-year-old, but my buddy comes up, he's like, hey, I'm very nervous about Holcomb. Like he'll get colder than we will quicker. And I looked at my friend's face. His face was blue. His hands were blue. And I'm like, dude, I'm kind of scared about you. And then I get, like, my other buddy's puking on the mountain. I'm like, get up here. So he comes up and we have a decision at about 14,000 feet with 300 feet left to go. But that's a hard 300 feet because you're zigzagging with no oxygen, loose rock. And the decision is, while we're waiting this out underneath this rock getting rained on, my buddy Shane says, can I pray for us? And I'm like, please. So he prays for all of us, and, you know, great prayer, but really just focused on protection and thank you, Lord. And at the end of it, I looked immediately at my son. I said, Holcomb, I go, this is why you have friends that matter. This is why you try to elevate, because one day, like, his prayer for us was impactful. I believe it worked, and it was what we needed. And I said, one day you're going to be at the top of some mountain in life.
Yeah.
And I go, there's going to be a hailstorm. I said, or you're going to be in the valley and there's going to be a hailstorm. And I said, you're going to want to be able to call on someone to come help you like this, like a real friend that will really give you good counsel and good wisdom and, you know, pray over you and just be real. And I said, this is why you have friends like this. So the decision is keep going. So we ended up going up another 300 feet. We make it. And then the second the second we hit click on the pictures, another hailstorm came in. And for 4 hours,
wow,
down, hailstorm, rainstorm. By the time we get to our cart, which is a buggy or whatever, everyone's freezing cold. I'm injured. Everyone's in. We're out of water. We're out of food. We're out of everything. Thank God I overpacked for the 2-hour hike. We get down and everybody is just, that numb when you just feel like you survived a knife fight type stuff.
Yeah.
It is looking around and everybody is like, are you all right? And we did. We were okay, but at the end of it, everybody kind of had to take stock of what we had just done. Yes, we'd accomplished it. Yes, we had made it to the top, but out of sheer willpower. And there was a lot of joy in doing it. Like, we did it, but at the same time, upon reflection, you were like, well, that was really stupid. I put my son in danger. I put my friend in danger. And yeah, we made it because we're all young and healthy. But man, that was close.
Yeah.
So that's the lesson I learned, is just you can, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
We're always learning.
Yeah, that's right.
We're always learning. Josh, I have so many questions for you, but I also want to be respectful.
Give me another question. We got a minute.
Yeah,
You got 5
okay.
minutes. What do you want?
All right. Yeah. So.
We'll wrap it up for the audience.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think we should wrap up for the audience?
I really want to know. I mean, and this is for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure the audience can get something out of this too. But if you had one piece of advice for me,
yeah, for you,
just as someone that wants to aspire to continue to grow and build businesses, and I mean, someone that looks up to you, what would you have? I mean, what
it's easy. Yeah. It doesn't even. I don't really need much thought to it. It is. Set the biggest goal you can possibly set, and then times that times 10. So whatever your biggest goal you've ever had in your head before, multiply that times 10, and then assume you can do it, and then you reverse engineer it. Like, all right, if I'm going to go be an X, or I want to build a this, or that seems unreasonable, but how would I do that? And then you reverse engineer it down, and you start, well, first I would need X. And what you end up doing is the net effect of thinking of the biggest goal you can possibly do is the things that you have to do to prepare for that. Mm-hmm. And everything in your life has to go. I can't drink anymore. I can't go to bed at 2 a.m. I can't waste money because I need the capital. I've got to build a bigger network because the network I have isn't going to get me here. Whatever those 150 things are that are going to get you to your biggest goal of all time. And once you set the biggest goal you've ever thought of, you then go about planning it. And the plan is the journey. The journey is the reward. Like, that's why money doesn't matter. I shouldn't say money doesn't matter. That's why money is the motivator, because the money will come if you're doing a business, or if you want to build a ministry, or if you want to help whatever, right? Like, your goal should be so big that people are like, that sounds ridiculous. And I have mine, and I'm going to do mine.
Yeah.
And I started preparing for mine 2 years ago. To really wrap this up, how I got to that point was what year are we in right now? I don't even know, 2025. Yeah. So Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, they do their annual Investors Day in the stadium in Nebraska. And if you are a shareholder in Berkshire Hathaway, you get a ticket. Mm-hmm. So they sit there on stage for 3 hours and answer every single question that comes their way. From how is XYZ going to influence geopolitics, if the company you've just bought here's earnings are down, or whatever they want, to why isn't there enough Oreo in the blizzards anymore? Why did you change that? Right? I mean, they will answer every single question. Mm-hmm. Typically, if you watch that, most people watch the CNBC summary of that CNBC does at the very end, that are most likely relevant questions to whatever investors' questions have, right? But I was sick because I just gotten back from out of town, so I was laying in bed in the middle of the summer, and I'm like, I can't go anywhere today. I'm going to watch this whole thing. So I watched all 3 hours. Mm-hmm. Buffett and Charlie never take a bathroom break. They drink Dr. Pepper on stage.
And at his age.
One of them was 95 at the time, and the other was 91 or 2.
Yeah.
And they were coherent, phenomenal answers. And as I'm watching these two guys, at the time I was 45, so I'm 48 now. So it was just 2 years ago. I just turned 48. So at 45, I realized these guys are 50 years older than I am, 50. And I'm like, I have another life ahead of me that's longer than the one I've already lived. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, what would I do with those 50 years if I didn't I have to teach myself how to not wet the bed, if I didn't have to go back to college, if I didn't have to go through the struggles of getting married, if I didn't have to do, whatever the things you have to do from 0 to 30, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I am going to live to 95. I've got healthy genes in my family. My great-grandmother's 105. Her sister was 103. My grandmother today is 97. Mm-hmm. On the other side, I've got 92, 95 grandparents. So I'm going to live to be 95 years old. Mm-hmm. I assume. And I'm going to plan for it. So if I'm going to live another 50 years, what am I going to do with those 50 years? And I thought, Josh, you don't have a plan. You have goals, but you don't have a plan. So I started doing exactly what I just told you. What do I want in 50 years? And I'm like, well, I'm going to be a billionaire. Okay, a billionaire. I can do that. How do I do that? And you start planning it out. And again, the money is not what I want to be a billionaire for. I want to be a billionaire because I have the talent and the mindset and the network and the capital to go do that. So if I don't do that, then I'm wasting the things that I was given or earned and how I was blessed. So I basically said, I'm going to build out a 50-year plan for me and my family. Because what if my son isn't as good a planner as I am, my daughter? And what if his kids aren't good planners? And I don't want to just have a bunch of rich grandkids, right? I want to have people that have a plan, can do it. So I'm going to build out the structure. So that's what we did. We built a structure in an office to facilitate growth. And that's where the whole pillars of do we like the person? Do we understand the product? Can we help it grow? That's our lead thesis for our investment firm. And then you have to structure it. You see what I mean? So like every one thing you do, if you set a big goal, there's 10 or 20 things that have to take place to get there. So to answer your question, what advice would I give? I would say set the biggest goal you've ever set for your entire life and then structure it out. And it'll keep you on target. It'll keep you going forward. You know where you're going.
Yeah.
You don't have time to dick around. Be like, what should I do? Well, you know where you're going.
Yeah.
So do the thing that needs to be done today.
When life happens, you have something to go back and reference.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
If I don't do this, I'm going to break the plan that I've set for myself, the strategic goals that I've set for myself. And you end up finding yourself, well, I got to put a foot forward today because this is what I have to do. So that's macro, big picture of what I would say to you is set the big. Remember that sign in our office? Think big.
Yeah.
Think big.
Yeah.
Think biggest.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate it, man. No, hey, seriously, thank you for coming on. I mean, you've been a big influence in my life. Often when I'm in a business situation and I'm trying to figure it out or I'm having a problem, I will literally think like, what would Josh Lowrey do? I really do think like that.
Yeah.
And it's not to butter you up or anything like that. I honestly think like that. But I have to. I mean, I'm out here trying to figure this out on my own.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have the same influences in my life, right?
But you got to seek those.
But yeah, I got to seek them. And the ones that I do find, I try to hold on to. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's why you always every once in a while get a message from me like, "Hey, Josh, how's it going, brother?"
JB, you're I haven't listened to all your podcasts, so I don't know exactly what you've shared over. I did listen to your intro and then the first couple, but character comes through.
Yeah.
You have high character. You have very high character. And like you can do a lot with high character. you know what I mean? Like good people are going to be around high character people. And this is not to call you out or myself, because again, there's nothing you haven't done that I haven't done. Nothing. And I mean that. It's take that for what you want it to take. I don't care. I mean, I'm not ashamed of anything. And when you realize like that you want to be around good people with high character and touching back the real dollars, fake dollars, right?
Yeah.
When you touch high character, you know exactly what it is. So, our time together was great. As I mentioned, Kevin's one of the most high character people I know. Kevin loves you, so I
love Kevin.
Yeah, there are things in our lives that, whether they happened at 40, whatever we were together, or, I just told you, my friends, I texted my a couple of my Young Life kids that were 14 when I met them. They were 18 when they graduated, and now they're mid-30s. Mm-hmm. That's a long time to know somebody. Mm-hmm. You see them through high school, through college, through the mid-20s, through their marriage and kids, And I remember asking one of my Young Life co-leaders at the time, I love him, but I didn't think he was as good as I was as a leader or as a, and I said, but everybody loved him. And I said, what am I doing wrong? Why do they like you more than me? Kind of is what I was asking. And he said, Josh, you need to look at these people, not like 4-year high school kids, but look at them as lifelong relationships where you're going to be friends with these people the rest of your life. And the moment he said that, I thought, that's exactly correct. I will not view anybody as transactional anymore in my life. So I view everybody as, I will know this person a long time. So there's a lot of grace good and bad for both. I need grace. We all need grace. I mean, it's funny about revisionist history. Like, you probably only remember the really great stuff about Josh Lowrey. I was probably a fucking dick back in the day. Sorry for cussing your podcast.
It's okay.
But I mean, like, a stressed out Josh is not a good Josh, and an annoyed Josh is even worse. And so, like, I'm glad you've forgotten the bad stuff.
No, I mean, look, I wasn't perfect either, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's
we're all learning, and there are a lot of things I wish I did differently, but I look at it now, and I see the lessons in everything. Right, I see the lessons in everything. I used to look back on it and cringe and be like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said that or whatever. But now I look back on it and I'm like, that's just the journey, right? You have to take the lessons out of every circumstance.
What's funny is, and we can shut down after this. So we just moved offices.
Yeah.
And we found. So we're kind of cleaning out storage units we've had for a while, because now we're going to just dump stuff we don't need. So we found this old speaker that was in the office that we were all in.
Yeah.
And it's beat to hell. The tire marks are on it from a chair. And I literally said this to Caitlin, that I said, look what JB did to this speaker. I said this to her like 4 days ago. I said, look what he did to this speaker.
Probably was.
It was definitely you. There's no question. I know exactly where I was sitting. I know, it's like you rolled over, and I remember yelling at you, going, JB, stop hitting the wall. Stop rolling over. You're like, oh, did I? I'm like, yes.
All right, man. All right, well, with that, we'll close. Hey, everyone, I hope you enjoy this podcast as much as I just did. And if you need to find us, we're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and anywhere you can get your podcasts. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, JB. Good luck, brother.
Hey, man, thank you,
awesome
brother.
Time.
Yeah.
You did great.